will be here. Let's get a voice note from Sue on farmers.
Hi, Mike. This is Sue from Snowy Lee. I support the farmers 100%. What I want to know is, do these supermarkets support the farmers, the ones who are always saying we only sell British?
That's a very good point, actually. The supermarkets are responsible to a large extent for pushing farmers in one particular direction, certainly dairy farmers in particular, who have to sell their milk to them at a particular price, have to sell their eggs, their butter, their cheese, anything that they make. They get sort of, you know, cartelled to death, if you like, by the supermarkets. Here's one from Andrew who says, Morning, Mike. Morning, Mike and Peter. Surely the only way of restoring public confidence in the police is to get rid of the crime commissioners, who are a political appointment. These were invented to politicise the previously neutral force. I'm sure Peter will have something to say about that. Let's go on to Huw Edwards, though, before I come back to that. Huw Edwards on the pages of the newspapers this morning, a big story on page 9 of Daily Mail. Huw Edwards tried to groom a pupil after seeing him in uniform. I'm quite staggered by this, right? Shame newsreader Huw Edwards tried to groom a teenage musician after seeing him perform in his school uniform, offered him a personal tour of the BBC. It was alleged yesterday.
Huw Edwards should be in jail.
Yeah, I know.
For those offences that he got sentenced only a few months ago.
Yeah.
Let alone on the front
sentence,
of a newspaper.
Right? I know.
Absolutely appalling.
Yeah.
And here we go, another story of him preying on young people.
Yeah.
The man's a predator.
He is an absolute predator, and again, it leads you to believe that it's impossible, surely to God, that nobody in the BBC knew this was going on. Because if he's offering to show this boy, which is what he was, around the BBC, presumably he was doing that a lot. And this boy, who's been speaking to channel S4C over in Wales, his name is Emyr, he says basically that he sent him suggestive messages calling him babe, big boy, littered the messages with hearts and kisses, right? He said he was even invited then as a student, aged 18, on a personal tour of the newsroom in London as part of a pattern of what Emyr now sees as grooming behaviour.
Yeah, well, of course, what was Edwards' intentions?
Yeah.
They're pretty obvious, aren't they?
I think so.
I mean, I don't send messages to people with hearts and kisses and all that kind of stuff.
He was also performing at a school concert, at a community concert, where Huw Edwards was the compere. And he was actively going out to compare shows with children playing musical instruments.
Yeah, and apparently he told Emyr, it's not his real name, by the way, it's a pseudonym they've given this young man. He told him that he could essentially open doors to help him with his music career.
Unbelievable.
I mean, do me a favour.
Absolutely shocking.
Should still be in clink.
He should absolutely be. Let's go back to what was said there just before in the message I read out about the crime commissioners. Do you think the crime commissioners should be done away with? Would that be a help to the police?
Well, they've been around for about 12 years or so now, maybe a bit longer. They're political appointees, you see, they're elected, and the overwhelming majority of them are aligned to a political party.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're getting independent oversight.
Yeah.
You're getting party, politically driven oversight of the police.
Right.
So any smidgen or semblance of independence just isn't there.
Right. So these commissioners kind of regulate the policy of a local police organisation, for example?
They're there to hold the police service to account.
So they'll sort of pop in to see the chief constable and say, how are things going?
Yeah.
Why don't you try doing this?
And they're all on very good money, by the way.
I'm sure they're over 6 figures, absolutely right.
And they're there to scrutinise budgets and set priorities and the such like.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan. In fact, when they were coming in, just before they were elected into place, I wrote a play for the BBC about it, imagining the relationship between a chief constable and a police and crime commissioner.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm not bigging myself up here, because any keen observer of policing might have predicted it, but a lot of what went in that play has come to be in terms of friction, and actually they're nowhere near as effective as they should be. Many people would like it to go back to the old police authority, when you used to have a local police authority that would scrutinise the police. But I don't know if we will.
Which was less political, Let's move on to something slightly lighter, shall we say. I'm getting a lot of messages, by the way, from people saying where it's snowing. So keep those coming, because we need to know what it's like. Here in London, in the old intellectual elite bubble that is London, don't forget, it's not the weather that is the same everywhere else. So if it's snowing where you are, let us know. Send us some pictures in. We might be able to publish them. How about this? Great headline in The Sun. It's a Halloween haunting, they're calling it. Our club needs a ghoul keeper. This is Ian Holloway. They're calling him extrovert Swindon town manager. Ian Holloway's a guy that I know reasonably well. He used to come in to do a lot of stuff with TalkSport. Very funny guy, very down to earth, very normal character. He's pictured with his wife Kim. He's been running Swindon not terribly well. I'm not going to speak out of turn here, but they're third from bottom in League Two, which means that if they drop into the bottom two, they're out of the Football League altogether. But he reckons that there's hauntings going on, which is stopping Swindon Town from performing better. So he's called in an exorcist.
His own wife.
She's
a white witch.
Who's a white witch. Yeah. Brilliant. So tell us about it.
So the training ground is near a cemetery, apparently.
Right.
And there's some suggestion that it's on the site of an ancient burial site.
Okay.
And therefore, there's a line of thought that goes, we may have upset some of the ghouls.
And there's a lot of ley lines around there, because it's not far from Salisbury, not far from, Amesbury and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. So she's going to get some sage, because apparently that frightens off the ghouls.
Does it? I've got some sage in the kitchen.
Yeah,
I don't use it much.
Wave a bit of sage around.
Yeah.
No doubt say some suitable words.
Yeah, a bit of incantation.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Why not?
Yeah. And hopefully that'll bring a change in fortunes for Swindon Town Football Club. But I love Ollie.
Yeah.
As I said earlier in the programme, he used to play for us. He used to manage us. Back in the day, we were literally out the front of the club with buckets, collecting people's change, because we were that close to
going out of business.
And
well, I'm afraid they've played 16 games so far. They've only won 2. They've drawn 7 and lost 7. Goal difference -7.
Yeah, so it's not looking great for Swindon Town.
Quite frightening, you might say. Yeah, Swindon Town fan.
But who knows? Maybe this exorcism will do the trick. I think they got Macclesfield on Saturday.
Have they?
I think so.
Yeah. 2 teams below them are Carlisle and Morecambe. The joys of football. I mean, people talk about the glamour of professional football. I mean, not very glamorous down there, is it?
Well, we're bottom of the Championship, and it's not very glamorous down there either.
Where are you going this weekend? Have you got a game?
Stoke at home on Saturday.
Stoke at home.
Yeah.
They do say, can he play in Stoke on a cold Tuesday night?
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ed Sheeran, because the big story in quite a few of the papers today, Ed Sheeran has had a go at Band-Aid. I always used to have a go at Band-Aid, because the great Christmas song will no doubt be revamped again. It's the 40th anniversary apparently coming up. And they've revamped it for this Christmas, but this time they've added in Ed Sheeran's voice. And he says they didn't ask him. And if they had asked him, he'd have said no thanks.
Say what you will.
I'm amazed he can't stop them doing it.
Well, say what you will about Bob Geldof and Emyr and all that crowd that raised so much money 40 years ago for starving people in Africa.
Yeah.
They were trying to do the right thing.
They were.
They were very
work, though.
well-intentioned.
Yeah.
They may have been rampantly naive.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, but they were well-intentioned.
Yeah.
So credit where it's due for that.
Right.
Of course, they're still trying to raise money.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to criticise anybody who wants to raise money for a good and worthy cause.
Yeah.
However, Ed Sheeran seems to have got his knickers in a twist a little bit. Quite frankly, I don't think I've ever heard one Ed Sheeran song.
Have you not?
Well, I heard
He's a very talented guy, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Because I know people who have gone to see his concerts, and he performs on his own.
Yeah.
And he plays all the instruments on his own.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a band or anything.
No.
And can hold an audience for like 2 hours plus.
Yeah, and he's extremely popular.
And he's very wealthy as well.
And he's an Ipswich Town supporter.
Is he?
So he's a tractor boy.
No, right, OK.
That's
so maybe he'll be at the march today then.
Sounds fair. Maybe.
Yeah.
And no doubt, if ever we get to play Ipswich and he's there, I can sing the song that we often sing to the Tractor Boys, which is I can't read and I can't write, but that don't really matter. I can't read and I can't write, but I can drive a tractor. Right? And the Ipswich fans, give them credit, usually have a bit of a laugh and a joke about it, and stick 2 fingers up at us.
They call it the old farm meeting, don't they, when Ipswich play Norwich. How about this? This is what Ed Sheeran said. My approval wasn't sought on this new Band-Aid 40 release, and had I had the choice, I would have respectfully declined the use of my vocals a decade on, because he did it in 2014. And my understanding of the narrative associated with this has changed eloquently. This is just my personal stance. But anyway, Ed Sheeran says he didn't want to be on it, but he's not going to block them from doing it. Peter, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.